And today it is my great pleasure to chair this panel on thinking globally, challenges for AI governance. So we are at a defining moment, as you've seen throughout this conference. AI is no longer the technology of the future. It is currently reshaping organizations, industries, workplaces across every sector and across every border. And the challenge that we must address is whether AI will be equitable, sustainable, and accountable, and whether it will work for people and not just for productivity. And this tension between innovation and responsibility is not just unique to any one country or sector. It is a global challenge, but it does not have a single answer. And different countries, different industries, different regulatory environments and work cultures are all navigating this in their own way. And this leads us to need to learn across these boundaries, because no single country or organization or even research community would have the full picture alone. And that is why an international perspective is not just valuable right now, it is essential. Because the solutions that will shape the future of work will not emerge from one context, but it will be built through dialogue, comparisons, and the willingness to learn from what others are experiencing on the ground. So in this panel, we're going to hear from researchers from across the AI at WorkLabs network, representing France, Canada, and Poland. And they work at the front line of this challenge and gathering evidence that public policy and practice so urgently need. So first, I'd like all the speakers to introduce themselves, please.
Thank you for this introduction. I am Yann Ferguson. I am a French sociologist. I'm working for Inria. Inria is the French Institute for Digital Technologies. And I am head of science of a shared initiative between Inria and French Ministry of Labor called Labor AI. And Labor AI was launched in 2021, and November 2021, just 1 year before the emergency of ChatGPT 3.5. And our mission is to produce knowledge about what does it mean to use AI at the workplace.
Good afternoon, my name is Marek Troszyński. I work at NASK, that's a Polish National Research Institute. And I work as well in the Civitas University in Warsaw. I'm a sociologist and a researcher. And I focus on technology and society. It's so obvious in this position, in this situation. And our last project was a cooperation with the International Labour Organization and a report called Generative AI and Jobs, a refined global index of occupational exposure. And we described a level of exposure on the exposure of the jobs and tasks, which is really important for us, for our perspective, that we are not only on the level of jobs, because that's the question, augmentation or just disappearing of the jobs, but we would like to describe the change on the level of tasks. And that's what I'm going to talk about this evening.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Vincent Pasquier, Associate Professor at HEC Montreal, so from Quebec, Canada, and that's from this standpoint that I will talk this afternoon. I'm also a member of Obvia Research Center, which is quite a unique observatory of how AI affects society, which is publicly funded in Quebec, and whose mission is to observe how AI is affecting various aspects of social life, including work. And we are about 300 researchers part of this observatory. And among the work that we've been producing lately is one survey about 5,000 workers who answered to that, and which enabled us to have to map out the effects of AI in more places. So, and and we also are currently digging into how the media industry is being transformed. So these are two of the many surveys and inquiries that we're currently leading with Obvia and its axis dedicated to work.
Thank you, Vincent. So I'm going to start with the first question, which is, what is the current challenge that your research or your lab or observatory's research has uncovered around responsible AI adoption in the workplace, and is it being addressed by any current policy frameworks? You can start.
I keep on. Okay, I've got the mic. I've got the power. So from our survey, when you look at the pillar of what responsible AI is, at the core of it, you've got transparency. To act responsibly with AI, you have to be transparent as an employer. And what are clear from our survey is that currently, at least in Quebec, Canada, employers are really far from being transparent about AI. When you ask workers, is there any AI in your workplace? The first answer from workers is, I don't know. And to a great extent, workers are left in the shadow when it comes to AI because, and this is even more so the case when it comes to technologies to AI, which manages workers. They don't know whether they are evaluated by AI. They even less know whether they are surveyed by AI. So there is a clear transparency gap in terms of adoption in Canada. There is also a clear, let's say, training gap in Canada. So another pillar of responsible AI is that you have to upskill or reskill your workers to adopt AI responsibly, and the survey is also waterkey that employers are not doing that. Workers, to a significant extent, are left on their own with AI. They have to learn by themselves. And what is more worrying with regard to this aspect is that they are left on their own, but when they are asked whether they are responsible in case of failure, the answer is yes. In 70% of the cases, employees feel that they are, to a significant extent, sometimes encouraged to use AI. They are not trained for that, but if they fail, that's their own responsibility. So here, we also have a clear responsibility gap in terms of adoption. And the third and maybe last and maybe main gap in terms of AI, responsible AI adoption comes to worker voice. So here again, workers have a really limited say on how AI is adopted in their workplaces. A really strong majority of the respondents of our surveys said that they were not involved in the AI implementation in their workplaces. And they also said that they felt their unions was not part of the discussion neither. So either individually or collectively, workers are to a significant extent not part of the discussions when it comes to AI. And this is also a significant gap in AI responsible adoption.
Yeah, so challenges, that's really hard to add something fresh new after 6 hours long, yeah? Right? But if we are talking about AI adoption, so in my opinion, the most pressing challenge for us is the shadow AI. That's what we are really focused on right now, and because you've got this specific situation, I've got some numbers here, but specific situation that, specific situation that workers use AI because they are under really pressure, and in Poland we we conducted quite a big survey as well. It's more than 6,000 people. It was a survey among public administration workers, and more of that's half of them, 50% of them, they said they use AI for work-related purposes. That's just a number right now, but at the same time we've got like 20% of them which use AI tools without employers' knowledge. And that's quite big. It means that it's one of the most important phenomenon if we're talking about AI adoption. And for sure, that's for us, that's the great challenge, how we can measure AI adoption if even the employers, they don't know. They don't know the scale, the numbers of employees who use AI tools in their work. And especially amongst public administration officials, they are always kind of a tricky game. Like, we've got new tools, but we are not sure can we use it for official, for job purpose. And as long as we don't have really precise legislation, really precise act of law, that still is the same problem. And that's, for us, for researchers, that's the great question. It's really hard to answer on this question, how we can monitor, how we can measure the phenomenon which people think is illegal. So shadow AI amongst workers, that's the biggest challenge.
I don't know if you remember, in 2018, the European Commission published 7 requirements for responsible AI. It's not the good term, it was trustworthy AI. And there were 7 requirements: autonomy, transparency, robustness, cybersecurity, sovereignty, well-being, and environment, etc., etc. And it appears that the AI solution who has a great success now is generative AI, and it respects none of its requirements. Okay, so what happened? If you listen to OpenAI CEO, he said in 2023, "I am the person on earth who trusts ChatGPT the less." Okay, so he said, "Okay, I told you. Now it's your responsibility to use it and the way you will use it." So this is a new kind of technological leadership, saying that I'm not accountable for my own technology as a provider, and the user is accountable. I am from Toulouse. In Toulouse, we make plane, and I'm really happy that when I take a plane, the pilots say it is your responsibility. Okay, because if you announce that, I left. Okay, I would take a train. And this is a new kind of technology, a new kind of technological leadership, saying, okay, you are responsible. And what happened, and I agree, is that the way ChatGPT or generative AI is disseminated is shadow AI. And shadow AI is individual and secret. The problem is you can't manage responsibility when it's individual and when it's secret. You have to make it collectively. I used to say there's no I in AI, and this is exactly what we have to do. We have to stop with this shadow AI. And the second part of the question is how institutions manage with that. And as the head of science of library AI, I wanted to do a survey about shadow AI. So I asked the Ministry of Labor, and they say no. They say no because officially it doesn't exist. It's shadow. We have really objects to deal with, and we don't have money for that. So we can use our money for something which is not supposed to exist. But as an employer, institution, they want to deal with it. At the moment in France, there's a large panel of employers and representatives, and they said we have to stop with shadow AI. And the representatives agree, and the government agree. We have to stop with it. But as an employer, they want, but as an institution for the others, they say it's not our accountability. So I think really we have to make it more collectively, because at the moment, with what we say when we talk about shadow AI is you have to develop critical thinking. But there's still an individual answer to the limit of technology. So the first thing to do is to stop with shadow AI, and I think it's a good start because on this subject, the representatives and the employer, they agree. So this is a good start because they disagree on many things, but on this thing they agree.
Thank you, Yann. Thank you all. This kind of already leads to my second question because what we all have in common is this challenge of shadow AI. And my second question was, how does context in terms of either national, sectoral, or cultural shape the way organizations approach responsible AI? And what looks different from other countries, and also what challenges appear universal? I mean, we've already discussed one, but if you have any others.
So I still have a microphone, so I continue. I think it's the critical question, because we talk a lot about the impact of AI as something inevitable, as something determinist. And it looks like that the heart of the equation, context, national context, sector, culture, they don't have anything to do with that. And I think it's a mistake. When I was a teenager, there was a very famous movie called The God Must Be Crazy. I don't know if you remember this movie, The God Must Be Crazy. And this is the story of a bottle of Coca-Cola falling down in Africa. And they received this gift from God. And at the beginning, they think it's a fantastic gift. So they can find many users to this bottle of Coca-Cola. But little by little, they have conflicts because there's only one. And this is the beginning of an instinct of ownership, which is not aligned with the value. And at the end, they will reject it, not because it's unuseful, but because they can't accept it. It's not aligned with the values. And when you talk an international a national event with people, you can begin to identify that it won't change every jobs in every country in the same way. Let me give you an example. Being an accountant, okay, you can have many surveys saying this is the end of his job. Okay, being an accountant is nothing but AI. It's not the first time. It was the same with Excel. Remember that. But they say, okay, this is the end of his job, but according to me and according to my own surveys, it's not the same thing being an accountant for a local community, for Amazon, or for a not-profit organization. So inside the same country, it's already different. But if you compare different countries, the same job and many different sectors, and you will observe that the impact are not the same. So I think we have to introduce this kind of questions to evaluate the real change and the way context in a way resist to AI, the way people resist to a bottle of Coca-Cola.
So as a sociologist, I can give just one answer, like context is everything. We know it, it's nothing more important, but I absolutely completely agree with you. I mean that if we want to explain the differences, we should look on the one level deeper, not only at jobs as itself. Accountant doesn't mean the same in the different situation, not only on the local or national level, but especially would like to compare the job for the same position amongst different countries. So the first, the main context is, in my opinion, it's still, even if we are a member of EU, most of us, but it's still a national level. So once again, I've got numbers from Poland. As you probably know, there's something like Oxford Insight Government AI Readiness Index, and in this index, Poland has a score like 96 of 100, so it's one of the highest. But in the same time, according to Eurostat, in Poland in 2025, we've got only 8.4% firms which used AI technologies at the same time. So that's probably one of the biggest gap in the EU between the readiness on the level of the state and the real adoption on the level of companies. That's why, in my opinion, that is really important that we should consider the national level context. And in our research with ILO, cooperation with ILO, we found out that there are 30% of jobs in Poland which are exposed to generative AI. It means that for Polish economy, there are more than 5 million jobs, and the really important factor is gender, because in Poland we've got that under 23% of jobs held by men, which are exposed, and 39% of jobs held by women, 23 to 39, and that's a big structural differences, and it's in our research we found that it's a universal factor, not only for Polish economy but generally for global economy. And of course that's just because the women work at this the most exposed on Gen AI sectors like clerks, like office work and so on. Yeah, and not only gender, but age is, as you probably know, it's still, even if we've got some different results from different research projects, but still this openness to new technology, that's something which is really important. It doesn't mean the level of skills, but it's like, we can say, natural born to be a user of new technology. And we see it in our research that young people, they've got the higher level of consciousness of what does it mean when you use AI at work. So once again, there are different factors, but it's really important if you want to understand the change, if you want to understand what happens right now in the labor market, the context is everything.
Thank you. So in the case of our survey, I'm going back to it, the differences in terms of effects across the segmentation of the workforce, the main one was probably the level of skills, and this is far from being new, but we've got facts to prove it, that the technological transformation is increasing the divide between the better off and the people at the bottom of the pyramid. And to a significant extent, this is the big picture. White collar workers, which to a significant extent could use it autonomously, were quite satisfied with that. They felt they could save time, they feel less stressed, they felt they have a lighter cognitive load, so they were globally happy with that. So those white collar intellectual workers were globally, not all of them, but globally satisfied with that, while people at the bottom of the pyramid, blue collar workers, they were much more exposed to what we call algorithmic management. They were much more directed, more surveyed by technologies, and they were much less autonomous in the way they could use AI. And in the end of the day, unsurprisingly, they were much more stressed by it. They felt their work was much more meaningless. and they were less satisfied with their work. So this idea of polarization of the white collar or educated people having their situation improved, while the people at the bottom having their situation worsening is far from being a new idea, but it seems to be quite happening in Canada. So this is a first fundamental divide that we could see from our data. A second one was related to age. We were at the beginning of the survey. We were quite against ageism, and we were sure that we would show almost no difference between more experienced worker and younger younger workers, because we had the assumptions that in most cases generational studies are really overstating the effect of age. But in fact, what we found is that there is a real generational gap. Young people are adopting technology much faster, and what is worrisome is that not only they are adopting it much faster, more intensively, but it seems that they are much less worried about their use of technologies. One assumption could be that they are at ease with technologies, they knew how to master it, or the other assumption is that they use it more intensively, but they are blinded by the short-term productivity gains that this enables, and this would be quite bad news. So these are the key differences we could observe, mainly in terms of age, experience, and in terms of skills. And then there is also, it seems that there are also universal constants in terms of AI transformation. One thing that seems to be universal is that the effects of AI doesn't come from the AI itself, doesn't come from the technology, but it comes from what employers have in mind. So it's not technology that is affecting work, it's what employers want to do with technologies that will improve or worsen the job quality. So it seems to be quite universal. It's not technology driven, it's employer decision driven. And the second lesson that seems to be universal as well is that when workers have a say in technological implementation, job quality improves. So if there are two universal lessons that could be drawn from comparative studies, these are the two maybe conclusions that holds universally.
Thank you so much. I guess my final question is, so what governance frameworks in each of your countries are emerging to support responsible AI adoption? And how can frontline evidence from across borders help strengthen these frameworks?
Okay. So once again, that's what's really important is the EU law. In this case, that's the AI Act, which was one in 2024. And now, Polish government in Poland, we've got we forced to adopt the AI Act into Polish national law system. And at the end of the March, the Polish Council of Ministers adopted the draft Act of Artificial Intelligence System. And what is the most important? The draft creates a new national body, the Commission for Development and Safety of Artificial Intelligence. So it still probably, will be a new institution in Poland. And the Commission which brings together two different areas of expertise. It includes links to financial supervisor, competition policy, media regulation, telecoms regulation. That's the field for the Commission. And two important ideas connected with the Commission. That will be the system of individual opinions. Organization will be able to ask the Commission how the case is, how AI Act applies to the specific case. And second one, which in my opinion is the most important point about the Commission, The Commission will establish a social council for AI. So it will be people from science, civil society, business, trade union, and so on. So that's the adaptation of AI Act on the national level, and it probably, once again, as you know, in politics we never know. Never knows. Probably in the end of this year, end of 2026, we will have a new framework for not only for administration but for companies. And as a first result, it should be AI sandboxes, which will start it in the second part of this year. There's the AI sandboxes, so the idea that you can, let's say, try your new ideas, new companies, new products inside the sandboxes, and a group of layers, group of engineers, technicals, which could help you with all the results, and even we, not we, but the Polish government is ready to with the AI factories and Polish national LLM, which could help the companies with the products and with the new ideas to develop on the first stage. Everything should be inside this sandbox. Thank you.
When you think about having a framework for responsible AI, I think you have, first of all, two questions. The first one is, how do you produce it? Okay, you can ask consultants, you can do it with your executive committee, or you can do it with your employees. And last year, I participated to a convention. It means that companies, they work with a representative sample of workers, and they explain to them what is AI, and they have the opportunity to make some auditions with experts on subject they chose, environment, future of work, ethics, legal questions, etc. And then they produce 37 guidelines from their own experience. And the question was, what could be the condition to consider generative AI as an opportunity for our firm? So this is the how. The second is, how do you do to make it alive? Because you can produce a fantastic chart or fantastic guidelines, but what does it mean every day when you have to face a situation? Do you make it alive with your manager? And this part usually is missing. Okay, you don't have this. When you publish your charter, that's the end. That's the end. Or you can create a new department, a chief AI officer or ethical officer, a little bit like we did when we began to talk about corporate social responsibility. You remember that all the company, they had a chart, other company, they had principle, we are responsible for sustainable world, etc., etc. And at the end, does it change many things? The soft law, does it change the way companies they do business? I'm not sure. Sometimes hard law are more efficient, even if they are harder to make them acceptable. So everyday AI is not really having responsible AI, is making responsible work with AI, okay? And usually this part is missing, okay? It means that every time you have a situation, you use AI and you have to face a dilemma, okay? Do you have to respect the principle, or do I have to send my work as quickly as possible to my manager or to my customer? And this is exactly the kind of situation we have to deal with. Okay, you can have a good chart, but at the end, if you don't have a good working environment, it will mean nothing. I remember we developed a survey about a specific use case, and it was not a responsible AI, really. But the environment, the social environment around the users, it was perfect. So according to me, even if the AI was not so good, it was AI for hiring, okay? And it was not good, but the way people trust human resources, the way they say, okay, this is your tool, and we won't ask to you what AI said. Maybe the AI system said, you have to hire this person, but you said, no problem, we won't check it, okay? This is your tool, and it's still your responsibility, but you don't have to follow AI. It's mandatory to use it, but you don't have to follow it. And it's not a paradoxical injunction. They didn't say, okay, but if you did a mistake, you will be in trouble. We won't be able to check if you did a mistake because we won't have access to your AI system. So all the environment was meant to make the workers comfortable, even if the AI system was not good. So I think responsible AI at the workplace is a balance between the quality of technology, but also the quality of the environment.
Thank you, Yann. Well, totally agree. I wish I was the person coming from Canada and delivering you good news about bombastic governance framework that should be imported from Canada, but unfortunately it won't be the case. It seems, from my view, that Québécois are really good for responsible AI in theory, but they are not as good as when it comes to responsible AI in practice. So we've got everything to have responsible AI. We've got like one of the key founders of AI, which is Joshua Bianjo, who is pushing for responsible AI or no AI when no AI is required. We've got in North America the highest rates of unionization. So we've got strong counterpower in the firms as well. So we've got the principles, we've got the counterpower, but there is no, it seems, at least to my knowledge, really convincing or gold standard models emerging in Québécois workplaces. Quite the contrary. So we've got the principles, but what seems to be lacking so far is like hard law to concretely help workers enforce these principles. So prior governments from Trudeau had the plan to set up a law to support workers bargain AI, but with the new government, this is no longer part of the priority. They bet a lot on AI, but on AI to improve the productivity, economic efficiency, but responsibility is no longer part of the picture. So for sure, Canada misses hard law, and Quebec as well, to support worker voices. And here again, when we go back to our studies, it seems also that just relying on the goodwill of employers, as you just said, Yann, is not enough. If relying on employers' charters or internal policies to have a responsible AI doesn't seem to be working so well, and this was striking with journalists. They many of them just ignored whether there was a charter or not, and when they knew there was a charter about generative AI, they said, well, it's not endable, because they set the principles, what could be done and when it could be done, but in most cases, my use cases, the 90% of my use cases fall within the gray area in between what can be done and what cannot be done. So to a great extent, this employers' policy were useless to them and were not solving the issue of responsible use of AI in newsrooms. So this is probably the sad but true reality of Canada and Quebec so far, is that there is no forward-thinking governance schemes emerging from, at least from what I know.
Thank you. Do you want to?
So thank you so much to the panel for that really rich and insightful discussion on approaches and the way countries are handling things sort of outside of the UK and lots to learn. We've got a few minutes for questions. We don't have the fancy Slido thing, but I can see a couple of hands up. Oh, lots of hands up. This is exciting. Okay, firstly, I'll hand over to you. Would you like the mic or? Yeah.
Thank you. I'm James Rice. I'm a PhD candidate here in the UK at a university. I have a question that's maybe more specific than the discussion has previously covered. I'm interested to know how the AI space within your respective countries is dealing with two general sort of aspects of AI development. One of those is sort of like open weight models. So we're seeing more and more models being released that are open source. And so this, I think, might address some of the responsibility aspects that you discussed, because not only are these models more transparent, but they're also more interpretable in some sense, because researchers can go in and adjust the model and maybe fine tune or do some other aspects of it. The other question I have is what your country's respective policies or the work that you're doing surrounding very advanced private models. So here I'm thinking about the recent release of Anthropic's Mythos model, which has only been released to about 40 private companies, including Microsoft and Apple and Amazon, and a few sovereign countries. I think maybe perhaps the US government has access to it, but I'm not certain. But how would you approach dealing with the release of these very powerful models that no one really understands the capabilities of except for the people who have access to it, and even then it poses significant risks, but potentially also significant opportunities?
Thank you. Who would like to take that one?
I think I can take that just first part.
The first question was about open source model. I say open source model is very good for responsibility by design. Okay, you have access to the code, you have access to the choice embedded in code, and that's really important. But I think it's only the first part of responsible AI in the workplace. It's exactly what I just said, is you have to, it's like your car, if you want to have a car, it has to be liable, okay? But then you have to have a good driver, and you also need a code. And this is there's three dimensions of responsible AI. So the open source model is good for the technology, but you still need the code, and the code has to be national or European, but also local, the code for your team. Yeah. And then you have the driver, the user, and the way he is trained to use it, but also the way he feels comfortable with the context. So this is my answer for the open source model. And the second one is about the powerful model. The fact that very few organizations they have access to it. I'm a little bit confused, because I feel like it looks like a strategy, making it very rare and developing phantasm about how powerful is this technology. And I will feel that the providers, they still try to increase the promise because they are unable to make current technology liable and robust. And it's still increasing the promise again and again and again. And at the end, trying to hide that they're still unable to create a stability in current technology. So but a little bit uncomfortable with this idea that there is a very powerful technology and only few people, and we have to be selected for that. I think it's a lot of strategy.
Thank you. I'll take another question from this side, this lady over here. Sorry, we're running out of time. Would you like to come in, Marek?
Just one specific thing, because I think that's a quite different situation in Poland than in the UK or in France or in Canada as well. Because what we need in Poland that are models which could deal with Polish language, and that's something really specific. So we've got like national development models which from the very beginning they are fine-tuned for Polish texts, and on every field, like for education, for commercial use as well. That's something which is specific, of course, not only from Poland, but for every country which got this small language, let's say. I mean the corpus of corpora of text, much less, like many times less than for English or French.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess...
I think you might need to turn it on. Yeah, it's a little switch.
Okay. I think because of the speakers. So many of the big companies are super national, and some of them about a decade ago signed the Asilomar principles, which were these ideas of these rules for developing good AI. And actually what they've developed does not align with those principles, because a couple of people that signed them, are behind Grok and OpenAI. So if we have these big companies that actually are not abiding by principles that they signed and are ignoring international law, as we've already heard, and they are getting away with it, how do we then impose local rules and local regulations on local companies that go, well, actually, we're building things on top of something that is technically illegal, yet we're not doing anything about it. So then how do we then enforce the local things when we can't enforce the bigger problem about how some of these things came to be in the first place?
Any short, sharp responses to that?
Short, sharp, not directly. No. But well, I would say that governments are probably not totally powerless nonetheless, and there are still some leeways to, well, for instance, taking the case of Canada, where there is almost no law to regulate AI, either commercially or from a labor perspective. There are still lots of rooms for improvements, notably going back to the first question in terms of transparency, but also in terms of data property, and this is typically a case that is central in the media industry, to reclaim the legacy of the news that have been used to train the models. So I think there are still some room, some leeway to craft laws that are teethful and that could help better regulate the impact of technology on work. I'm not sure that was so short, neither so sharp, but it was an attempt at least.
Acceptable, thank you. One final question, I think. Oh, you had your hand up earlier, so I'll come to you.
Yeah, I did. Thank you very much. I just have a curiosity. We've seen in the past how technology was meant to improve things, right? And make certain problems go away, and we've seen that hasn't necessarily been the case. What makes us think that AI is going to necessarily improve things? I think we heard earlier there was an option of maybe not adopting in certain spaces, and it feels like that's kind of left the conversation at times, because really people's behaviors aren't going to change, working environments aren't going to change, corporate responsibility aren't going to change. So can we talk a little bit more about opting out in certain spaces where appropriate?
I know that's your question, but just one, your topic.
So about just one thing, it's really hard to discuss about opt-out, because let's say for Polish economy we've got the global World Bank report, and World Bank said Until 2035, it could be additional 10 points for GDP for Polish economy if we are in. So the question about opt-out, that's the part of the answer.
I just finished a prospective work for a big French company, and it was for CSR department, okay? So social responsibility of companies. And first scenario about AI was 100% AI, but always best in class AI, okay? You will use AI always for everything, but there will always be the best in class in all the international norms. The second scenario was the balanced approach. You have to measure the benefits and the risk, and maybe at the end you will say, okay, we won't use AI because it's the balance is not positive. And the last one was not no AI at all, but we decide on many dimensions of our work that we won't use AI, even if it's possible, because we want to protect our identity. We want to defend, to protect what we are. So I think there are many kind of answers to you, many ways to answer to your questions. And you can say that 100% AI with best in class is responsible. But you can also say that you have to choose AI only if there's no satisfactory alternative. And every time you can find another answer, you'd have to choose this one.
Thank you. Well, I think we had a few more hands up. Sorry, we couldn't get to everyone. Lots of interest in this. This is amazing. The panel is still going to be around, I think, for a little bit of the day. But in the meantime, please can we thank the panel and the moderator for a great discussion. And thanks to you all for coming.